Good afternoon, everybody. I like to welcome you all to the first ever FST Student Council Women in STEM event entitled Clubs Takeover Part 1. I would like to introduce the Mistress of Ceremonies, Ms. Michaela Hussein, to lead us into today's proceeding. I really hope you enjoy the session. Michaela?
Hi everyone, welcome to our Women in STEM event part 1. So let me just give you a little rundown on why we're having this event. Tomorrow is International Day of Women and Girls in Science. So we are having a big celebration. Also, it's all about women's empowerment. So we're gonna get into it. We will have speakers from all different fields coming today. We will have our fellow club leaders in UB coming from all different FST and engineering and different gender clubs as well. So stay tuned for that. And I'll pass you back on to Jeremiah because he would like to give us an address.
Good afternoon, everybody. I bring you greetings from the Office of the Guild FST representative, from the FST Student Council, and of course, greetings from the entire Guild. Today we gathered today to commemorate such a very special event and a very significant event in today's society. And I would like to really commend all of the clubs for participation in such a newsworthy initiative, as we know that today we'll be learning a lot of things. And I intend to learn a lot from the presentations here today. And to members of the audience, it is important that all of us learn because we need to support our women and girls in their endeavors and to learn more about the struggles and challenges and the strides they have made, and so we can give support to them. Of course, that's everybody in our society, male, female, and everybody across society. We need to come together. So I hope that this initiatives, everybody has from this initiative that they learned something here today. And I would like to just introduce, well, just start some of the clubs that participated today. We have the UWI Actuarial Science Club, the UWI Chemists in Action, TT Spark, Stargazers, by UWI Biological Society, St. Augustine Mathematics Society. I believe we have the Sister Society on Ignite. I think we also have the Safe Space. So we, if I miss out any clubs, I apologize. I believe we also have another faculty subcommittee by the name of Engineering Student Society here with us, and they will also be giving a presentation. So I invite you all to sit back and relax, and I hope you enjoy today. And I just would like to say, tomorrow we have part 2. Tomorrow we have a minister coming as well. So tomorrow is going to be exciting, but today we're drumming up the excitement today as well. So pass you back on to our Mistress of Ceremonies, Miss Michaela Hussein, who will post in this event.
Yes, thank you for that, Jeremiah. So as he said, we have a lot to cover today. So I just want to pass it on to Savan. Mr. Savan Philip is the FST Student Council Club Coordinator. So he will be giving an address on behalf of us. And yeah, Savan, you take it. Your mic is muted.
Sorry about that. I just want to give us a small address on the importance of clubs. So clubs themselves play a very unique role in our society. They provide not only a route of information to pass, but also a place where people of the same interests can interact, share ideas, and even promote opportunities. That also shows in the share of small idiosyncrasies, playing into our habits, how we perceive the world, and in most of our cases, if not all, how we get into our fields as professionals. This year is actually extremely important, especially nowadays. Nowadays that we are entering into a working world with a mindset, we should go there with the mindset to improve it, and an understanding of gender equality is a large step in that. We have come a long way in our society, but there's still a lot of steps to take before we can come anywhere close to saying we are perfect. Clubs promoting this is not only raises awareness, but it also helps us have a better understanding, helping to erase stigmas that hurt our society. But on top of my head, I can think about engineering and sciences in a whole being a quote unquote male field. This is one such way of thinking that really shouldn't be the case, as historically, women have added so much to our field. As a biologist myself, my immediate thought is Rosalind Franklin, who contributed so heavily to our basic understanding of DNA, something that we all know so very well. And then going forward, I can only say it's little steps like this, from raising awareness to better understanding of votes of women, that we could actually attain this. That is where our clubs come in, showing that our clubs are held not only by strong women, but women who really couldn't have gone this far without. Look at a lot of our club presidents, Kemai, Aksai, and a lot others are led by strong women. So let's look at this event. Take a look, see how much women can do, how much they have done, and how much they will continue to improve each and every field they are in. Thank you.
Thank you for that lovely address, Van. And yes, we will be showcasing lots of talents today because everybody has put together presentations for you all to enjoy. So I'm just going to give you a little idea of the agenda. We're going to have 5 presentations because we have a lot of clubs in this. So we have different groups. We have first the gender groups, which I will be presenting on behalf of because I wear many different hats. And then we will have the natural science group, which includes biology, chemistry, and physics. For all those of you enthusiasts, natural science enthusiasts. Then we'll have the math group, then computer science, and finally engineering. And we'll have a little wrap up after. If y'all have any questions at all also about the clubs you want to join and stuff, that's what this is for as well. So without further ado, I myself to present on the gender clubs. So just give me a minute to share my screen and we will get started. All right. Y'all can let me know if I'm okay to present. Okay, I take silence as consent. So this is Women in STEM, and I will be presenting a perspective from the gender-oriented clubs. That is FSD Safe Space. If you didn't know there was an FSD Safe Space, there is, and it's a place where anybody of any sexual orientation is accepted. And I am the president of that club, and that's why I present half today. Then we also have IGDS Ignite and UE Sister Society. We have all come together to put this presentation together. So let's get started. So I know that y'all know a lot about this topic already, right? I mean, we've always heard about gender inequality and how women have not made the progress in STEM that men have been able to make because of things like the glass ceiling and other systemic biases and against women, right? But before we get into all that statistics and a little bit more about the topic, we need to look at why it's important. And I am also, I don't know how many of y'all know me, but I am also an environmental scientist. So I'm going to tackle this from the point of sustainable development. It's important, and you all would know the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Goal 5 is actually gender equality, and it's a worldwide goal that most countries under the United Nations are working towards. So gender equality strongly impacts GDP per capita, actually. So it's not just important because women need to be empowered, they're part of society, and they need to have their fullest self-actualization, but also it impacts our economy. With more gender equality, the GDP per capita grows over time. By 2050, closing the gender gaps in STEM education would lead to an increase in European Union GDP per capita by 2.2 to 3%. So this is a European report kind of thing. But imagine in countries where there are gender gaps, what this can do for the GDP per capita. The work in STEM can contribute towards sustainable development, improving people's lives and promoting prosperity while protecting the planet. So it's important that everyone has equal opportunities to contribute to such an important field that STEM is. So, okay, I'm just gonna do a little review of the basics because you all would already know that in elementary and high school, we have roughly equal numbers of boys and girls in science. But as we progress to the undergraduate level, you would see fewer women pursuing specific fields like computer science, math, and engineering majors. Those are the hard science fields, they like to call it. And then the disparity is even more recognized and significant in the postgraduate and working world, where men outnumber women in several STEM fields. Also, female-dominated professions tend to have a lower pay, and oftentimes women are paid a lesser amount than men for the same job. So that gender pay gap is also a big thing that we are looking to. So the next thing also is not only in the work school issues, but also in awards, you could see this disparity. Since 2000, there have been 7 female Nobel laureates out of a total of 174 in physics, chemistry, medicine, and economics, and only 1 female Fields medalist, which is the highest honor internationally for research in mathematics out of 18. So that's a huge disparity there. And I know a lot of us do statistics, and we know that that can't really be due to chance, right? It is due to a lot of factors which we are going to discuss. Trinidad and Tobago has reached relatively equal levels of male and female researchers in STEM. There's still some things that we can do. And this is not just a race to even out statistics, right? I know we talk about
Please give us a moment. A few technical difficulties, but we'll be right on track in a few seconds.
Okay. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties as usual. Right. Back to where I was. I think I was here, unless you want me to go back. But yes, as I was saying, this is not just a race to even out some statistics. So it's game time. And you all can respond. Do you think this statement is true or false? Girls' achievements and interests in math and science are shaped by the environment around them. Do you think that's true or false? If anybody, I'm sharing the screen, so I can't see what you put in the chat. So if anybody responds, let me know. True or false? Anybody? We have no prizes, so unless you want to brag about how you got this question correct, but no. Okay, if no one has an answer to this, I'm going to give you the answer. It's actually true. Research shows that negative stereotypes about girls' abilities in math, this is just a study in math, but it also applies in general, can indeed measurably lower girls' test performance. And we know this about, I guess if anybody had negative stereotypes applied against them, it would affect how they perform, right? So this is what is something that affects women's performance or like going into certain fields, because what they found in the research is that the girls in school would perform well in class, but in tests and things they would not perform so well. And that's because there's a stereotype that boys are better at math or whatever, right? So that's one point, the stereotypes. But another point, and you all would have seen, if you follow FSC on Instagram, we have these lives called Gender the Agenda, and you would have seen that we talked about this. We have a tendency to think that women's biological makeup and their brains affect what careers they can go into. Like, you know, it might have like some kind of biological restraints because their brains are wired differently. But the brain is plastic, and not plastic like plastic bags. Plastic as in it's shaped by its environment. It's called neuroplasticity. So if you have a girl, a child, and you encourage her to play with different toys that affect different areas of the brain, she may be more likely to go in, to have a particular interest in doing something, or be better at doing something. So it's actually not that women's brains affect what careers they can go into. It is their socialization that can affect their opportunities. Right. So, and one factor that we've been talking about a lot is implicit bias. So there is bias. You would hear about it, in job recruiters or whatever. You always hear how they would prefer that a male pick up a certain job as opposed to a female. So that's basically what bias is. Sometimes we might not realize that we have that bias. So that's called unconscious or implicit bias, and it could come from the environment we grew up in, and many other factors. And again, like I would have some bias that maybe I don't even know about. So that's why we have this implicit bias test. I linked it here, and I will put it in the chat after. If you want to take the implicit bias test, they have a different sets of tests, and you can do one for females in STEM. If you have a bias against that. Women in male fields have been historically subjected to implicit bias. And this is because we have a system in our society called patriarchy, and it has influenced what gender roles a woman should play. Now, patriarchy is not just about men ruling and stuff. It's a whole ideology about how what roles men should play and what roles women should play. And when women step out of these roles, there are social consequences. And one of those social consequences can be their likability. So in this report that I've been referring to, Hill et al., 2010, sorry, they found that women who are competent in male fields tend to be less likable, and their likability can influence their success in the field, because likability has an impact on your charm with people and your charisma and whatnot. Likability is a huge component of getting success. It's not just about being competent in your field, which many women are. So all of this affects women in STEM. Okay, now also I wanted to stop and think about male privilege. Male privilege is all around us. It's something that we are born into. And I know that stereotypes are being eroded and all that stuff, but it still affects us. And if you think about it, like in Trinidad and Tobago, men have to think about if someone would kidnap them. Of course, we know there are many exceptions to that, but isn't it general? Sorry, example, I gave another one just about male privilege. What about dress? Men may be able to dress how they want without people assuming that they want to have sex with them. Is it the same for a woman? So again, yes, those are examples of male privilege that are all around us. And in STEM, it exists too. So men acknowledge their privilege, even in female-dominated fields. For instance, in teaching, men may be encouraged to take up higher-paying administrative jobs, even if it doesn't align with their interests. Like an administrative job is something different to teaching students, right? So but it tends to be higher paying, and it tends to be seen as, a more male field than teaching. And this is from a 1992 study, but I also found a 2021, I think, study, 2021 or 2020, that showed similar results. If you want, I can also link that. So it still exists today, even in female-dominated fields. You would think you don't have that, but actually, so I want to talk about, we've been talking a lot about how implicit bias and stereotypes affect women, but also intersectionality affects them. Because women not only have to face implicit bias due to stereotypes based on their gender, but they have to face other issues at the same time. For example, mothers in STEM can be discriminated against when they have to go on maternity leave and things like that. Women of color and varied sexualities are discriminated against. Trans women do not have as much opportunities as cis women in STEM. And this affects their progress in STEM. And again, that goes back to our sustainable development goals of gender equality. Gender equality for all means cis and trans women, and it means persons with these intersecting identities also need to have equality. So I'm going to have a special focus on LGBTQ women and women living with disabilities. LGBTQ women face more layers of disadvantage because of outright social discrimination. And there's also a lack of legal protection for them. A lot of us would know in the Equal Opportunities Act, LGBTQ persons are not protected under this act. And so they can be legally discriminated against. And that's why there has been a lot of lobby around the Equal Opportunities Act. That's in Trinidad, of course. And workplace policies are often not in place for same-sex couples and these kinds of things. So that is in addition to the discrimination that you might face by just being a woman. Also, women living with disabilities are often left out of inclusivity considerations, and provisions are not always made for them in the workplace. In research fields, you have to use the lab and stuff, and not everyone with disabilities is able to use certain equipment and whatnot. So we always have to remember that we have to make provisions for everyone, especially again as we're striving to equality. Okay, so after all that kind of heavy talk on what all this bias and stereotype and challenges layering on top of one another, we come to what we can do. This is from a report that investigated women and girls in the Caribbean and Latin America. And some of that is actually what we're doing right now, highlighting challenges and recognizing the achievements of women and girls in STEM, helping girls to recognize career relevant skills. So like in mathematics and things, teaching these skills early and not gendering the skills. We need to be able to allow girls to have equal access to learning different skills, to enter different fields like engineering and computer science. Also exposing women to successful female role models, especially at early ages, which is again something we're doing here. Teaching, and tomorrow we'll have more of that as well. Teaching students and teachers about stereotype threat. So the threat of what negative stereotypes about being a girl and and being in science can do to girls, and trying to eradicate that. Mentoring, having a role model is always great. Having a mentor is someone you can talk to, and I know we have a good bit of that in UWI. Conducting department reviews to assess female faculty. So this is more with respect to in these and stuff, what changes they can make to allow women equal access to careers in their fields, raising awareness of implicit bias, changing the organizational culture of some places, and changing the way we socialize girls. Not gendering everything so much to be a male field and a female field, but allowing them to explore the career options that they want to, both boys and girls. So, okay, I'm almost done. We're going to look at some inspiring women. If you could think of any inspiring women in STEM, put them down in the chat, put their names down in the chat. It could be yourself too, because I know that UWI is not easy university on the whole. So yeah, but we will be talking about some inspiring women. First here we have Professor Judith Coben, and she was the first female head of department for life sciences, and she's a senior lecturer at UWI. So this is a big accomplishment for women, but in future, hopefully it won't be, because it will be a big accomplishment, but hopefully we won't have to keep saying first female this and first female that, because we would have more gender equality. And then we have Dr. Sharon Hack. I'm sure many of you all know both of these wonderful women. She's the first female astrobiologist in the Caribbean and former deputy dean and head of department of physics. Again, another woman in a leadership role. And we have more inspiring women. I had to plug this event, so please come and check us out at 4 p.m. tomorrow. We have all these inspiring women will be speaking. And that's pretty much it. Thank you all for your time. And I hope you enjoyed the rest of the events. I will pass it back on to myself now. Yes, so thank you all for your attentiveness. I know that was a bit of a long presentation. And I see in the chat, y'all had some comments. So I would like to now pass it on to the Natural Sciences group to share their presentation. So please come. Presentation. Just give me 1 second. Okay, we are back and running. I hope y'all can see it. So I will let y'all take over from here.
Okay, so hi everyone. We present to you the Women in STEM Natural Sciences presentation. This presentation was done in collaboration with members from the UWI Biological Society, UWI Stargazers, SPARC, and Chemists in Action. Kelly, you could just see. So education for males only. What about women? What's about women? Traditionally, education for males was prioritized with regards to science, and women were supposed to study household or domestic duties. Famous mathematician Hypatia was publicly and horrifically executed for following in her father's footsteps and studying mathematics. Because the field of science has been male-dominated, it is often seen as logical, strong, and masculine. It is a sustained and false perception that women are supposed to be caretakers, and women being viewed as emotionally driven, it is often assumed that we are unable to make the hard choices required by the field.
So why are women often deterred from pursuing degrees and careers in STEM? Several reasons for this may be attributed to both situational and individual factors. So the first situational factor could be sexism. It's not uncommon for women in STEM to face hostile work environments in classes, labs, and workplaces, which in turn undermines women's persistence in STEM. The STEM environment may adopt or they may not act to dispel such harmful stereotypes. The second situational factor could be the theory of intelligence. So the way intelligence is perceived can also contribute to women being deterred or having a negative experience in STEM. People who believe in the entity theory of intelligence believe that intelligence is fixed, meaning that you cannot change the amount of intellectual ability that you have. Incremental theory of intelligence suggests that intelligence can be increased and that you can achieve success through effort and hard work. In work environments where natural ability is valued over effort, or in other words, the entity theory of intelligence is adopted, can result in a stereotype that women do not have the natural ability in STEM. This false perception can lead to the devaluation and exclusion of women in the workplace. Individual factors include imposterism. So stereotypes stemming from the entity-oriented STEM field can lead to women doubting themselves and discrediting their own accomplishments. This manifests as someone being afraid that they can't reproduce their own success again, or that they fear that someone will discover that they lack ability, when in reality, they would be extremely capable. The second individual factor could be self-efficacy. So self-efficacy refers to someone's confidence in their ability to successfully complete a task. So if someone is confident that they could complete a task, they would have a high self-efficacy. It has been found that women in STEM generally have a lower self-efficacy than men in STEM, and the reasons for this can be attributed to the factors previously mentioned, such as imposterism, sexism, and theory of intelligence. The enhancement of individual factors among women in STEM, such as their feelings of competence and belonging, as well as the elimination of situational factors, such as sexism and stereotypes, can greatly enhance women's persistence in the STEM fields. So how do we measure the level of equality between men and women? There's a statistical measurement known as gender parity, which gauges the level of equality between men and women by providing a numerical value, in that it gives a value for the female to male ratio and is utilized for factors such as income and education. For example, if there are equal number of girls and boys who completed primary school education in a specific country, the gender parity index for that indicator would be 1. The greater the level of gender inequality, the lower the gender parity value. Gender parity can be used to assess gender inequality in specific areas, in setting goals, and in acting change. However, it's not completely comprehensive since it doesn't consider non-binary individuals and the transgender community.
Okay, so next we will discuss the underrepresentation of women in the STEM field. And based on previous discussions, it is no surprise that the underrepresentation of women in STEM fields is an issue. We could turn to the next slide, please. According to the UNESCO Institute for Statistics, in 2019, the number of female researchers worldwide in the field of science lied at a mage 29.3%. This percentage continues to decline as one ascends the rank of seniority, with only 3% of Nobel laureates being women. Caribbean and Latin American extracurricular STEM programs in schools are two of the few regions that have been able to somewhat achieve parity regarding female and male researchers. 45% of all researchers are women. However, underrepresentation at senior levels continues to be an issue, and women still remain a minority in STEM fields. In STEM fields, at the undergraduate level, women receive half of all the bachelor's degrees. There is gender parity at this undergraduate level. However, less than 50% of all postgraduate degrees are attained by women, and women are less likely to work in STEM occupations relative to men. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk about women are underrepresented in STEM workforce in America. Next slide, please. Women make up only 28% of the workforce in science, technology, engineering, and math. And men vastly outnumber women majoring in most STEM fields in college. By the time students reach college, women are significantly underrepresented in STEM majors. For instance, only around 21% of engineering majors are women, and only around 19% of computer and information science majors are women. Nearly 80% of the healthcare workforce are women, but only about 21% of health executives and board members are women, and only about a third are doctors. Women are more highly represented in lower paying fields, such as home health workers, nurses, and the lower paying specialties, such as pediatricians. 38% of women who major in computer work in computer fields, and only 24% of those who major in engineering work in the engineering field. Men in STEM usually get higher salaries than women. Annual salaries for men can be at least $15,000 higher than women per year, which is about 85,000 for men and 60,000 for women. And it further continues that Latina and Black women in STEM earn around 33,000 less per year.
Solving inequality and bias. So there are some steps that we can take to support female STEM professionals. Okay, so first of all, institutional employers can offer more support to the women in their professional careers, as well as how to overcome gender-related inequities, bias, and discrimination. Secondly, we could all focus on building a network of allies and mentors. Next slide, please. We could also implement greater policy intervention with a more visible response to gender-based harassment and discrimination. Early education initiatives should also be invested in, so at a young age, women are encouraged to enter STEM fields. We could also use media outlets as a mechanism to promote diversity in STEM fields. And lastly, we could also introduce extracurricular STEM programs into schools.
Hello, okay, today I will be introducing you to two notable women in natural sciences, one of which comes from the Caribbean. But firstly, does anyone know what the polio virus is? Okay, well, just in case you don't know, it's a contagious virus which is life-threatening and disabling that can infect the spinal cord, causing muscle weakness and paralysis, and this virus mainly affects children
But the good news is that the virus has been eradicated in most continents in the world. However, it's still classified as endemic in Afghanistan and Pakistan. This is because of the global effort of the WHO and its vaccine distribution. And one of the persons involved in this initiative is Dr. Esther de Corville. Next slide, please. She's a Trinidadian virologist with an extensive international work experience with the WHO, where she was in charge of over 145 labs. She also has work experience in the US Centers for Disease Control Prevention and the Caribbean Epidemiology Center. And she also worked in our very own University of the West Indies. Regionally, she has been instrumental in drafting the laboratory regulations for national policies on STDs, and she also conducted country visits, provided technical assistance, and trained laboratory workers. She also led a research project on HIV in Trinidad and Tobago, and she also established HIV testing services in the Caribbean blood banks, and obviously she played a major role in the polio eradication in the 3 regions of the world, the Americas included. And to end it off, her other contributions are being a contributor to the WHO publications, and she's also a recipient of an award from the Caribbean Association of Medical Technology.
Okay, Michaela, next slide, please. So now I'm going to introduce you to Nancy Grace Roman. So Nancy Grace Roman was a noted American astronomer who made important contributions to stellar classification and motions and became the first female executive at NASA. She also served as NASA's first chief of astronomy throughout the 1960s and 1970s, establishing her as one of the visionary founders of the US civilian space program. She created NASA's Space Astronomy Program and is known to many as the mother of the Hubble for her foundational role in planning the Hubble Space Telescope. Throughout her career, Roman was also an active public speaker, an educator, and an advocate for women in sciences. So this is the end of our presentations. We thank you for listening and happy International Day of Women and Girls in Science.
Thank you all for that lovely presentation. I did not know those Caribbean women. I do know about polio, but I didn't know that those women had such a strong role to play in that. So thank you all for that lovely presentation. And we will head straight over to math, our mathematics presentation from UE Acti and Sums.
Everyone, my name is Natalia Jackson and I'm the Secretary of the St. Augustine UWI Mathematical Society. And today I would like to wish you all a happy International Women and Girls in Science Day from us here at SUMS. Today our special interviewee is Christine America Hussein, who has 9 years of teaching experience in the education sector, as well as a combined degree of mathematics and geography, as well as work in youth development. Now let's have an insight of her experience as a woman in STEM.
When did you first become interested in mathematics, and was there a moment where you knew you were going to be a mathematics teacher?
Maths for me was one of those subjects that I guess I was always good at. Upper school and high school, though, I realized that I had to work a little bit harder for it in order just to understand it and to keep on top of it, because it was so different from what I was probably used to before. With respect to knowing that I wanted to be a maths teacher, that didn't come so easily. I know I wanted to be a teacher. Maths, however, was not my preferred subject. But things just kind of happened in a way that they did and followed a path that I didn't even plan out for myself. But I remain grateful for it because I recognized early on when I started to teach maths the impact that understanding the subject could have on a person versus just doing it because you have to do it.
How does your work encourage diversity in STEM fields, and have you changed your teaching style to achieve this goal?
I don't think my teaching style has changed to reflect that, but I guess my small contribution to it has always be like having students walking into a room, especially female students walking into a room and see a female maths teacher as opposed to a male maths teacher, which is probably something they would have been used to their entire lives. So just to know that a woman could be holding this position would probably do something to encourage their dreams, like if they were a little bit apprehensive to pursue it before.
What do you think should be done in order to reduce discrimination and encourage more women in STEM?
For this particular one, I think we need to go way back and start from when children are small growing up, and if a girl child picks up a hammer or says she wants a screwdriver or a toolbox as a present, you don't say no, why you just don't play with dollies or have a tea set instead. I think we need to normalize girls wanting to get their hands dirty or doing stuff that would have been in an otherwise male-dominated field, because I think it's like a thought process that you would grow up with, thinking that okay, have some things that girls supposed to do and some things that boys supposed to do, and I think that's the mindset that we need to get away from.
What advice do you have for female students who want to pursue a career in mathematics or STEM in general?
Do it. Don't think about all the things that could go wrong or everything that people would say. If you like it and you have a passion for it and you want to pursue it, then that should be reason enough to do it.
You still see sexism and discrimination in the workplace?
I've been a teacher for the past 8 years, and in the past 8 years I have only ever worked with one other female maths teacher, which is quite telling of the environment. But I would say that I'm lucky that I never felt discriminated against in the workplace. However, I have been told on multiple occasions that a female maths teacher could appear intimidating to a lot of people.
Were there any mentors or historical figures who helped inspire your love for mathematics and teaching?
Maybe not a historical figure, but I remember I had this teacher in high school. She taught me from Form 4 to Form 6, and that was the point at which maths was getting real difficult for me, in the sense that it was just different and I felt like I had to work twice as hard to get a result. And her name is Miss Karen Bali, and she was just persistent. Like, you know, she was one of those teachers who would just show up every single day, like regardless of how difficult it was, you know. And however, whatever topic it was, she would just try to keep a structure and make things flow and try to make sure that you understand. And her notes were real good too, so it means that even if you was having a difficult time, it still didn't seem as difficult as it could have been had it been another teacher.
Would you say that the environment has changed since you began teaching?
That's quite the understatement of the century. When I started teaching, everything was face-to-face, and now, because of the pandemic and otherwise, people forced to adapt and we online. And it's really just a matter of going with the flow now. I think that's what the teaching profession is. And I think that's how it will probably continue to be for quite some time.
Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin Mohammed, the president of the UWI Actuarial Science Club. Our special guest today is none other than Ms. Toni Marie Bobart, the first qualified FSA from the Actuarial Science program here at St. Augustine campus.
Good day everyone, my name is Toni Marie Bobart and I'm a 2015 graduate of the University of the West Indies St. Augustine's Actuarial Science program. I would like to thank the Actuarial Science Club for asking me to speak at this event.
In being the first FSA from our program and also being the first woman FSA from our program, do you think that you received any negative biases from your male counterparts?
And no, I cannot say that I have noticed any negativity from my male counterparts. The males that I do know at my level in the field have always been very supportive, and one even put forward a recommendation for me at my first job. And similarly at university, no real negativity was noticed. What may or may not to some of you be a surprise is that women oftentimes are the ones who we face our biggest challenges from. Along the journey to becoming a qualified actuary and progressing in my career, I've had more negative experiences from women than from men. And I think this is something that we as women need to work on to be more supportive of and encouraging of each other.
In keeping with the previous question, have you ever experienced any sort of discrimination or prejudice being a woman in the workplace and a woman actuary?
I don't have a very long history in the professional world yet. I can say that I have had a few unpleasant experiences to date. It is not uncommon to be spoken over or overlooked for certain things in the professional world. You have to make extra effort to have your voice heard sometimes. This is also something that my female friends in other organizations have faced. And these experiences extend just beyond the actuarial or STEM world, and it is something that women in general face.
As a woman in STEM yourself, what advice do you have for aspiring female actuaries in terms of overcoming discrimination and biases within society?
Working hard to stay focused on your goals and to don't be intimidated by anyone, although this last bit comes with some learning. By doing this, your work will speak for itself. An important point to note is that when looking for jobs, looking at the culture of the organization is critical. For example, what are their policies on diversity and inclusion in the workplace? A woman often promoted to management, and is the compensation structure transparent? These are just a few things that you should look for, to name a few.
So, Ms. Toni Marie, to what extent do you think the exposure to STEM fields is important in getting women interested and involved?
That this is very important to show young women the potential for them in the field of STEM. They should be taught that there is no career path off limits, even if it has been traditionally male-dominated. The contributions that we as women can make in the workplace and the difference in perspectives or ideas that we can bring only serves to add value, as more innovative solutions can be found to problems. A great way to get early exposure is to have women who are working in STEM fields to speak to groups of young women and girls, even from as early as primary school. By showing them how exciting a career in STEM is, the impact they can have, and how they can overcome any biases, it can really encourage them to pursue a career in STEM themselves.
Are female actuaries paid lower than male actuaries? What's your take as to why this phenomenon occurs?
Definitely, I cannot speak too much on this as I don't have full information on the salaries of my male counterparts. However, from looking online at the gender pay gaps in the actuarial profession, there does appear to be one, where on average women earn around 20% less than men. A few of the contributing factors cited for this gap are that men are often promoted to mid or senior level management above women. The average male actuary is older than their female counterparts, and that women oftentimes work less hours than men to balance childcare.
According to the SOA, women make up about 30% of their membership. How would you go about encouraging more women to join the actuarial field?
The first step for that would be education. Not many persons to date fully understand what an actuary does, the work it requires to become one, and it's not a career that you would widely see advertised at career fairs at high schools in the Caribbean, for instance. Another form of encouragement would be to have more women actuaries or aspiring actuaries mentor young girls to help them along their journey and provide advice, whether it be on exams, career prospects, or just navigating the working world. So thank you for this opportunity to speak, and I hope that some of what I said was helpful.
Happy International Day of Women and Girls in Science.
Happy International Day of Women and Girls in Science.
Happy International Day of Women and Girls in Science.
Happy International Day of Women and Girls in Science.
Happy International Day of Women and Girls in Science.
Happy International Day of Women and Girls in Science.
And today, I would like to wish you all a happy International Women and Girls in Science Day from us here at the UWI Actuarial Science Club.
Sorry. Thank you all for that lovely presentation from ACTSI and SUMS. It was great to hear from some local perspectives, people in the fields. And maths being also a field women tend not to go into because so thank you all for that. I enjoyed it a lot, and I hope you all did too. Please remember, if you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat. We have lots of the club executives here. So if you want to join any of these clubs, or get any ideas about what they do, please drop your questions. Be happy to answer it. So the next presentation we have is computer science. So I will be sharing that. Just give me a second. Okay, y'all, take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanisha Ramcharan and I am the president of the UWI Computing Society. I'm also a final year student pursuing IT, and today the club and I decided to look at Joan Clark. So I hope you all enjoy our presentation. Okay, so Joan Clark's main achievement was code breaking at Bletchley's Park during the World War II. Next slide, please. Joan Elizabeth Lauder Murray was an English cryptanalyst and numismatist, best known for her work as a code breaker at Bletchley Park during the Second World War. Although she did not personally seek the spotlight, her role in the Enigma project that decrypted Nazis' Germany's secret communications earned her awards and citations, such as appointment as a member of the Order of the British Empire in 1946. Clark attended Dulwich High School for Girls in South London and won a scholarship in 1936 to attend Newnham College, Cambridge, where she gained a double first degree in mathematics and was a wrangler. She was denied a full degree as Cambridge only awarded these to men until 1948. Clark's mathematical abilities was first discovered by Gordon Welchman in an undergraduate geometry class at Cambridge. After noticing Clark's mathematical abilities, he recruited her to join him at Bletchley Park and be a part of the Government Code and Cipher School, also known as GCCS. The GCCS started up in 1939 with only one purpose: to break the German Enigma code. Clark first arrived at Bletchley Park on 17 June 1940. She was first placed in a group only made up of women referred to as the girls that mainly did routine clerical work. At this time, cryptology was not considered a job for a woman in England. According to Clark, she only knew of one other female cryptologist that worked at Bletchley Park. So the Enigma code was basically a machine that the Germans invented to encrypt their messages. And they strongly believed that this machine counterparts. Next slide, please. Thank you. Clark was recruited by her former academic supervisor, Gordon Welchman, to the Government Code and Cipher School. She worked at Bletchley Park in the section known as Hut 8 and quickly became the only female practitioner of a cryptanalytic process developed by Alan Turing, which reduced the need for bombs, electromechanical devices, as used by British cryptologists Welchman and Turing to decipher German encrypted messages during World War II. Clark's first work promotion was to linguistic grade, which was designed to earn her extra money despite the fact she did not speak another language. This promotion was a recognition of her workload and contributions to the team. Clark became deputy head of Hut 8 in 1944, although she was prevented from progressing because of her gender and was paid less than the men. Clark and Turing had been close friends since soon after they met and continued to be until Turing's death in 1954. In early 1941, Turing proposed marriage to Clark and subsequently introduced her to his family. Although privately admitting his homosexuality to her, she was reportedly unfazed by the revelation. Turing decided that he could not go through with the marriage and broke up with Clark in mid-1941. Clark later admitted that she suspected Turing's homosexuality for some time, and it was not much of a surprise when he made the admission to her. After the war, Clark worked for the Government Communications Headquarters, where she met Lieutenant Colonel John Kenneth Ronald Murray, a retired Army officer who had served in India. They married on 26 July 1952. Following her husband's death in 1986, Clark moved to Headington, Oxfordshire, where she continued her research into coinage. During the 1980s, she assisted Sir Harry Hinsley with the appendix of British intelligence in the Second World War. She also assisted historians studying wartime code breaking at Bletchley Park. After meeting her husband, who had published work on the Scottish coinage of the 16th and 17th centuries, Clark developed an interest in numismatic history. She established a sequence of the complex series of various coins that were in circulation in Scotland during the reigns of James III and James IV. In 1986, her research was recognized by the British Numismatic Society when she was awarded a Stanford Salters Gold Medal. Due to continuing secrecy among cryptanalysts, the full extent of her accomplishment remains known until this day. Thank you very much for having the UWI Computing Society. I hope that this presentation was informative, and on behalf of the entire UWI Computing Society, I would like to wish everyone a happy International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Thanks again.
Thank you very much to the UWI Computing Society for that very informative presentation. So next we will have the Engineering Student Society group, which I will also share.
A pleasant good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chelsea Best, the Faculty of Engineering representative, and this presentation is brought to you by the Engineering Student Society 2021-2022, where our motto is one faculty, one people. Alright, so this initiative, of course, is entitled Women in STEM, Leaders of Change. So this afternoon, my presentation will highlight a few women that, of course, would have impacted the world of engineering and how we take their contributions into our everyday life and how we believe and how we would like to strive to be, hopefully, them at some point. And my committee members, the ladies on my committee, will then leave you with inspirational quotes to just give you a bit of motivation. Marthia Castellan, born 1826 and died 1904, developed a signal flares that are still used by the US Navy today. She has no record of any higher education. However, after her late husband died at her tender age of 21 years old, leaving her with 5 children, she decided, after finding his notes, to continue his work. We bring Marthia today to you as an example of a young woman being in an uncomfortable position and making an impactful contribution to the world of engineering. We see Marthia as an example of who we strive to be at this young, tender age. As a doctor, engineer, and NASA astronaut, Mia Jemison has always reached for the stars. In 1992, Jemison became the first African-American woman to travel into space. We bring Mia today to you as a leader of change as she makes us question, what can I do to be the first? What do I need to do to reach the stars? Because as you know, the sky is the limit. I didn't learn to be quiet when I had an opinion. The reason they knew who I was because I told them. Ursula Byrne.
If you haven't failed yet, you haven't tried everything. Rishma Sanji. Don't let anyone rob you of your imagination, your creativity, or your curiosity. It's your place in the world, it's your life. Go on and do all you can do with it, and make the life you want to live. Mae Jemison.
Now, this brings me to the end of our presentation. I do hope this presentation was motivational, inspirational, and fruitful for all listeners. On behalf of the Engineering Student Society, I'd like to wish each and every one of you all the best in your future endeavors and your studies. Please allow me to leave you with one last quote from Brian Tracy, which is, "There are no limits to what you can accomplish except the limits that you place on your own thinking." All the best.
Okay, and I would like the Engineering Student Society for that lovely presentation. You would also see them tomorrow. Miss Chelsea Best will be there as well, and we will have some notable speaker from engineering there. So if you want to know more about women in engineering, as well as all of the other STEM fields, they will be represented tomorrow. But that's basically the end of our agenda. We finished all the presentations. So if you all have any questions, we have, again, as I said, we have the club executive staying on for a little bit. We'll probably wrap up at 2:30, but if you have any questions, or if you're on Zoom as well. And thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, especially to the clubs for organizing all these presentations. I hope you all learned something new today about women in STEM and do to help address these issues. If you are a woman in STEM or you want to be a woman in STEM, we say go for it, because you have all the opportunities ahead of you and you have all the change to make. And that's what this event is about. It's about women empowerment and getting rid of those inequalities and biases. And as Jeremiah would have said in the beginning, this event is also not just for women to look at. We want to encourage everyone to be a part of these things, because we need men's support to get where we want to be. We need everybody to participate to get that equal opportunity and eliminate those, again, as I said, stereotypes and biases. And a lot of us have those stereotypes and biases. So we also need to check up on ourselves. And that reminds me, I said I would send some links from the gender presentation, but I didn't. So I'm gonna get those now. If you have any questions, we'll be on here for like 5 minutes again.
Again, sorry if I just want to remind you all tomorrow to come to part 2. Michaela, what is the time again? I'm sorry if I forgot.
No, it's okay. It's at 4 p.m. and I know it's 2 events, so it's a little confusing.
Yes, so I know that Fridays may be a bit hectic for you all. We have classes on the Friday, but we ask you all to try to make every 10, we'll be meeting some speakers that you've already met before. If I can just call out some of the names, we have Dr. Lana Sanka, Dr. Fasi, Miss Jessie Ramkalawan, Dr. Friedrich Mohammed. I can't remember all the names. I will even have the engineering deputy dean who will also be in attendance. And of course, importantly, we have a guest. Our guest for tomorrow is the Honorable Education Minister, Dr. Nian Gatsby-Dolly. She actually came from the Faculty of Science and Technology, St. Augustine campus, specifically the chemistry department. So I'm just using this opportunity to remind you all to come out to the event. And we really hope that these two-part events really achieved all of its objectives. It took a lot of planning by Michaela and the team. Well done, Michaela and the team. I think these events were really good. So yeah, so see you all tomorrow for part 2.
Yeah, so I just sent, I don't know if somebody could send out on YouTube if they have it ready, the link to the implicit bias test. That was from the gender presentation. And then I just sent a journal article on men in female dominated fields. Yeah, so any questions? We are excited for tomorrow, as Jeremiah said. And yeah, I also want to say a big thank you to everybody behind the scenes who helped out with this event. It was a lot of planning. We've been planning this since last year. And yeah, thank you especially to Jeremiah for this initiative. Thank you to the events committee team and all the tech people. And yeah,